So here's a question. Can a newcomer really shake things up when a market leader has had, years to solidify its position?
It's a classic business scenario, right?
Yeah, exactly. And today we're diving into exactly that, looking at the weight loss drug market. Specifically, Eli Lilly versus Novo Nordisk.
Mm-hmm. And our main source here is a really detailed piece from The Economist looking right into this competition.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Our mission really is to figure out why Eli Lilly's drug, Zepbound, seems to be catching up so fast to Novo Nordisk's Wegovy.
Especially since Wegovy had, what, a 2-year head start? Over 2 years, actually.
Right. It's a great look at how sometimes being maybe second but better can completely change the game in an industry.
Novo Nordisk definitely had that first mover advantage going for them with Wegovy. For a while, they were pretty much the only big name for this new type of drug.
They absolutely were.
Yeah.
But here's where the story gets really interesting. Zepbound, despite launching later, pulled in nearly $4.9 billion in revenue in 2024.
Wow. Okay, so Wegovy still did more, $8.2 billion. But that's still a massive number for Zepbound right out of the gate.
It really signals a shift, doesn't it, that rapid uptake?
It does. And, Novo Nordisk even recently cut its 2025 sales forecast.
Oh.
Yeah, they mentioned lower than planned growth, specifically in weight loss drugs. So that suggests they're feeling the pressure, maybe some unexpected challenges.
And the market projections are pretty bold, too. S&P Global thinks Lilly's sales in this area will actually pass Novo's by 2027.
That's soon. Okay, that is bold. What do you think is behind that kind of prediction?
Well, I think several factors we're about to get into, but Zepbound's initial splash is clearly a huge part of it.
And investors seem to agree. You look at the stock prices since early 2024, Lilly's is up significantly, maybe a third.
Yeah, well, Novo's is actually dipped.
That kind of divergence, well, it tells a story. Investors are placing their bets.
So let's dig into why. What's giving Lilly this momentum? It seems like the drug itself, Zepbound, is a big piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Efficacy is key here. Both drugs are in that GLP-1 agonist class, right? They mimic a gut hormone, curb appetite.
Right, but Zepbound does something extra, doesn't it? It's got a dual action.
That's the crucial bit. Wegovy just targets GLP-1. Zepbound hits both GLP-1 and another hormone called GIP. And that second target seems to really boost the weight loss.
The head-to-head trial data certainly backs that up. Wegovy users lost, almost 14% on average?
Which is good.
Very good, yes, 13.7%. But the Zepbound group, they averaged 20.2% weight loss. That's a pretty significant difference.
A huge difference. Is there a clear reason why hitting both hormones works so much better?
The thinking is it creates a kind of synergy. Targeting both GIP and GLP-1 might just be more effective at regulating appetite, maybe metabolism too. And it's not just the average loss. Look at the big losses. A third of people on Zepbound lost 25% or more of their body weight.
A third. Wow.
Yeah, and that was double the rate seen with Wegovy. Numbers like that, well, they get noticed by doctors and patients alike. You'd think so. So no wonder the prescription numbers are shifting so dramatically.
Exactly. First quarter of this year, 2025, Zepbound apparently accounted for 60% of all weight loss prescriptions in the U.S.
60% total.
And get this, 75% of new prescriptions, people starting treatment are overwhelmingly going for Zepbound.
That is incredibly fast market penetration.
It really is. But it's not just about how well the drug works. Production and the whole supply chain play a massive role, too.
Ah, right. Novo Nordisk had some real problems there, didn't they? Keeping up with demand for Wegovy.
They did. Big problems. Wegovy was actually on the official FDA drug shortage list in America right up until February this year.
February. That's quite recent. That must have created a huge opening.
Definitely. While Novo was struggling to supply, Lilly seems to have managed their Zepbound production scale-up much more smoothly. Reports suggest they sorted out their main supply constraints back in October last year.
So they had months where they could meet demand while Novo couldn't. That's a major advantage.
A huge window. And Novo's shortages even opened the door for, compounding pharmacies.
Right, the ones that mix up their own versions?
Exactly. Offering potentially cheaper copycat versions while the official drug was hard to get.
I see. So Novo expects things to improve now that the shortage is officially over.
Yeah, they're hoping their revenue recovers now that Wegovy is available again, and maybe those compounded sales will drop off.
Makes sense. But Lilly didn't just rely on Novo's problems, did they? They were pretty active in setting up how they sell Zepbound.
Very proactive. They started offering direct online sales for lower doses of Zepbound quite early on, I think last August.
Direct to consumer.
And then they partnered with Hims and Hers, that big online health platform. It's all about making it easier for patients to actually get the drug.
Expanding access. And Novo followed them on that.
They did, yeah. They realized they needed those direct channels too.
Okay, so better efficacy, smoother production, smarter sales channels. What about price? That always matters, especially in the U.S.
Hugely important because, get this, over half of these obesity prescriptions in America are paid for out of pocket.
Over half? Why so many?
Well, many insurance plans, and importantly Medicare in most cases, they don't cover these drugs just for obesity. You often need another related condition like diabetes or heart disease.
Right, so for many people it's their own money on the line each month.
Exactly. And when you look at the list prices, Wegovy is around $3,350 a month.
Okay. And Zepbound?
Zepbound is listed closer to $1,000.
So $350 cheaper per month, that's not insignificant.
Not at all. For someone paying out of pocket, that difference could easily be the deciding factor. Affordability is definitely playing a role.
So looking ahead then, what about the future? New drugs coming down the pipeline.
Both companies are working hard on that, of course. Novo has a potential Zepbound competitor called Cagrisema, but recent trial data showed it was basically just as good as Zepbound, not better.
It's just tied. And that was seen as bad news for Novo.
Apparently so, yeah. The Economist piece mentions their share price took a hit on that news. Shows you how high the expectations are.
Wow. Okay, so what about the next big thing? Oral pills instead of injections.
Right, that's seen as a huge potential market, easier for patients. But here, the approaches seem quite different. Novo has an oral drug candidate.
But there are challenges.
Seems like it. For one, it uses the same active ingredient as Wegovy, which might mean it's still expensive to make.
Okay.
And the way you have to take it is, well, a bit complex. Empty stomach in the morning, specific amount of water, wait 30 minutes before eating.
That sounds like it could be tough for people to stick to every day.
Yeah, adherence could be an issue. Some analysts are apparently even doubting if Novo will launch it globally because of these factors.
Interesting. And Lilly's oral option. Or for Glipron, is it?
Or for Glipron, yes. That one sounds potentially quite different. It's supposedly cheaper to manufacture.
Cheaper, okay.
And crucially, no fasting required. You can just take it. That ease of use could be a massive advantage.
You'd think so. Much simpler.
And Lilly seems really confident. They're talking about having millions of tablets ready even before expected approval next year. Projections are already hitting $16 billion in annual sales by 2030 for that one drug.
$16 billion.
Huh.
So Lilly looks potentially stronger in the oral space too, at least for now.
Seems that way. But it's not all smooth sailing for either company, right? There are broader potential issues.
Like what?
Well, trade issues, talk of tariffs, especially if there are political shifts. Neither company makes everything they sell in America currently.
So supply chains could be vulnerable again.
Potentially, yes. Though both are trying to hedge against that. Novo's parent company bought Catalent, a big manufacturer.
Right, I saw that. A $16.5 billion deal.
And Lilly's investing heavily, like $27 billion, in building more U.S. production facilities.
So they're trying to onshore more production.
They are. But as Lilly themselves pointed out, that takes time. Building a new factory isn't quick. 3-4 years, maybe.
Okay, so that's a medium-term solution. What else?
The perennial issue of drug pricing in America. There's always pressure, talks about regulating prices, maybe linking them to international levels.
In the Medicare decision not to cover these drugs broadly, for obesity alone, that still stands.
For now, yes, mostly. That continues to shape who can access these drugs and how they pay.
So, quite a few uncertainties floating around.
Definitely. But despite all that, the overall picture for both companies still looks pretty positive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, the market itself is just exploding. Even if they're competing fiercely, it's a huge pie they're dividing.
Exactly. It's basically a duopoly in a market that's growing incredibly fast. Analysts are talking about a $90 billion market, maybe more, by 2030.
A $90 billion. And the projection is Lilly gets almost half of that, like 47%.
Yeah, with Novo still holding a very respectable 40%. So even if Lilly takes the lead, Novo is still looking at a massive business.
It's not like Novo is disappearing. They still have a chance to react, adapt.
Absolutely. They've got experience, they've got infrastructure. The game isn't over by any means.
Okay, so let's wrap this deep dive up. The picture seems to be Lilly's surge comes down to, well, Zepbound being arguably a more effective drug.
That dual action seems key.
Combined with really solid execution on production. Getting the drug out there through smart sales channels.
Avoiding those shortages that plagued Novo.
A slightly better price point, especially for out-of-pocket payers.
That $350 difference adds up.
And potentially a more user-friendly and maybe cheaper oral drug coming down the pipeline.
It's a compelling combination of factors.
So for you, the listener, what we're seeing here is a really powerful example of how market disruption can happen.
Yeah, it shows that even if someone gets there first, if a competitor comes along with a product that works better or is easier to get or cheaper,
and executes well on the business side,
they can seriously challenge, maybe even overtake the incumbent. Being first isn't the whole story. Being better and getting it to people effectively matters just as much, maybe more.
Innovation is crucial, but so is execution and access.
Yeah.
That seems to be the lesson here. So here's something to chew on. We've talked about Lilly and Novo, this duopoly. But we know this market is attracting tons of attention, maybe over 100 companies looking into weight loss drugs.
Right. The field could get crowded.
So how might this two-horse race look in 5 or 10 years? What other factors, maybe things we haven't even thought of yet, new science, sudden regulatory changes, shifts in how we view obesity, could completely rewrite the script again?